Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by, and you're going to have to put up with all the kit noise. But I just wanted to show you who's back. Peter Comp. Now that immediately that opened, I sort of moved it somewhere where I can see it and got a guilt trip because back in the there's Hurricane Hector off again, all up my trouser leg. When we did the last giveaway draw, one person got the Peter Comp, but I hadn't long split it and the plants weren't stable. They didn't have a good root system, and so I held it back. And then we got into the summer, and basically I'm not posting stuff in the summer when it could be sat in a van at sort of 120 degrees, so it got put on hold, and it still is. It's not forgotten, it's just on hold. But somewhere in amongst my sea of green is another one of these, and last time I looked at it, I know it now has roots, so it's on the mend. So what will probably happen is when we get to the next giveaway draw, and I've got to do wrapping and packing and all that sort of cobblers, that one will get sorted. And for the inconvenience of having to wait what will probably be nearly a year, maybe there'll be some extras in the box. Facebook and YouTube, watching other people's videos, various things like that, we're getting an awful lot of people are having problems with rot of one description or another. And this is combined with watching Danny's video about why don't plants get crown rot in the wild. That's why. Where our orchids grow in the tropical rainforests and a bit higher up into the deciduous forests, the air is never still. It moves. Look, these plants are moving. The air moves. And that's a really, really important factor that should never be forgotten. Especially if you get your plants wet. Now I don't. I keep my plants dry. The only time they ever get wet is when they're getting some sort of chemical spray, a bug spray or a fungicide spray, or it's ridiculously hot, in which case I use the spray to cool them down. But with the air moving like it does in here and temperatures like that, a wet plant's going to dry in no time at all. Therein often lies the difference. It's not just the fact that the air is moving, it's the temperature it's at. It's not only 21 degrees, it's 26, 27, 28 or 30. Water evaporates incredibly quickly at those sort of temperatures. If you think the mass producers of the Phalaenopsis, they don't go around watering their little pots, do they? They have huge big sprinklers come on timers, sometimes triggered by temperatures or humidity levels. Their plants get absolutely soaked. And do they get crown rot? Do they hell? Because they are grown at 28 degrees with plenty of that. So they're dry in half an hour to an hour. And the other thing you tend to forget is that in the wild, in certain seasons, certainly in the growing seasons, it rains rather a lot. Rainwater in those areas is clean water. It's constantly washing the plants clean. Yeah? Do they get rained on? They get cleaned. They get washed off. Yeah? And the air that rain has come through is much cleaner air than most of the air that we live in. With our industry and our traffic pollution and whatever gets into the air, the rain comes down and absorbs that, so that by the time it gets on our plants or in our rain barrels, it's partially contaminated. It's got some things in it that wouldn't normally be there in the wild. So we don't grow in the wild. Now if you're lucky enough that you've got a climate where you can take your plants out and strap them to a tree, then you do grow in the wild. I bet those plants don't get crown rot. And they get rained on. Yeah? And the other thing is that via Rick and some of my own research to back that up, it has become apparent, it has come to pass, that most of the orchids we grow are epiphytes, so they hang on trees, therefore their roots are on the bark. And trees, not all, but quite a few trees, actually give off excess calcium through their bark. So our epiphytes in the wild would have a supply of calcium available to them at any time they choose to take it on board. Yeah? And we all know that calcium is part of the structure building process within our plants. It gives them strength and sturdiness and helps them fight off stuff by just being strong and sturdy. Yeah? So the wild is not our front room. It's not our bedroom windowsill. And to a degree, it's also not our greenhouse, or in my case, my grow room. This grow room's an enclosed space. You know, okay, I suck in air from outside this time of year frequently, it's doing it now. And the air gets replaced, it gets refreshed. But what's the air like that I'm sucking in? You know, I live in a town. Now, okay, there's not huge amounts of industry around here, but there's a fucking lot of cars generating a load of muck up into the atmosphere. So the air that's coming in is not of the quality that the air would be where these grow in the wild. And it would, the rain, that if I did collect rain and use it, would not be of the quality that the plants would get in the wild. Plus, in the wild, we don't tend to get many hybrids lurking around, do we? They're species. They've been there for tens of thousands of years, evolving resistance to the environment that may be harsh to them. They're good at it. So, a few differences between, you know, where we grow and the wild. We cannot normally recreate the wild because of those factors that we just cannot compete with. Yeah. So don't get despondent, for goodness sake. You know, just don't get your plants soaking wet, basically, and make sure you keep that calcium up. And you know, your plants should grow in a reasonable manner and be able to ward off much of the sort of stuff we get. But I bet this orange rot that's going around, I'll bet you anything you like, if the actual air movement was upped considerably where those plants are kept and they weren't got wet, I bet it would stop or not appear in the first place. Once you get it, it's not that easy to get rid of. But I've always said prevention is better than cure. I can't overemphasize how important that is. Get your air moving. I've seen videos of orchid hunters, people out trying to find new species. And, you know, they're videos of plants they found on tree trunks and hanging off branches. And they do a bit of this, quite a lot. They move. Maybe gently, you know, this is a bit of a hurricane at the moment because it's hot in here. But the air moves, it's constantly moving. The heat allows the air to rise and fresher air gets drawn in. It's constantly cycling round. And it's clean air. And when it chucks it down with rain, the plants are washed clean. And you've also got to bear in mind, the crown rot tends to go with Phalaenopsis, but no, it doesn't really. It's just that for every orchid grown in culture, there's probably 20 Phalaenopsis. Think about the maths there. You know, so out of 21 orchids, 20 of them are Phalaenopsis, and 1 or 2 might get some crown rot. So it seems to be that the Phalaenopsis are more prone to crown rot. Well, you get dirty water and let it sit there and not evaporate, and your temperatures aren't too clever, then yes, you'll get a problem. Yeah, standing water. Go and have a walk round your forest or your local area and find what we call in the UK a dew pond. This is just a low-lying area where rainwater runs down and collects and sits. It's got no way of getting out. Stick your nose near it and smell it. See what I'm getting at? Standing water is not on with orchids. So don't let it happen in the first place. Prevention better than cure. And my little bulbophyllum's got a few more blooms coming, whatever it's called. It's not what was on the label, that's for sure. It was labelled as Tingaburinum, and it isn't, because if you look that name up, it's not what this looks like. Now these are not fully open. Give it a few days when these are fully open. They are tiny, I'd have to get the tripod out, but I'm going to try and get a close-up of what these look like, and then you can all go off and see if you can identify it for me, because I can't be bothered. Let's get somebody else doing some work, shall we? Right, it seemed that a few people latched on to my comment in my Kiki video about an expression, Fruit Loops. And one person, Martin, got it absolutely spot on, and others have completely ignored it. But I'm going to try and include something in each video that is a reference to an event in a TV program or a film. Now when I have a break in one of my videos, you often hear me say, "I'll be back." Now we all know where that comes from. That's Arnie in the first Terminator film. Everybody knows that. But what if I looked up and said, "Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back"? Find that one for me. See you next time.